Okay, guys, this is the class of Wheel of the Year. It's the introduction to Wheel of the Year. And this class is being held by a very dear friend and amazing, knowledgeable warrior queen. She's incredible, Dee Kennedy. She has done a few classes with me before, and this is something that we are super excited for people to understand and learn. Now, this is a subject that I am actually interested in learning myself, so it gives me the opportunity to learn more. And if you want to learn more about Dee, you can go to her website at www.diva13.com. Dee can correct me. I'll put that down there.
Yes,
Don't.
that's right.
Okay, so yes, I was like, is it Diva? It's diva13.com. I'll put it in the chat box, and you guys
D
will.
with two E's.
Yes.
Diva.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because it's okay. So it's DEEVA 13.com, the number 1 and 3. Now, Dee will tell you more about what she does. I think it's phenomenal. She's very much knows about Egypt. She's like got a lot of ancient information, and I always enjoy doing these classes. So you guys get ready for a really fun class, really kind of walking away with knowing more about yourself and the universe around you. So let's set together for an hour of magic, okay? All right, so Dee, let's go ahead and put the spotlight on you and go for it, my love. So tell us more.
Hi, Sweta.
Hi.
I'm glad we got over our technical difficulties at the beginning. Don't you just love technology when it doesn't work?
Nope.
Hi, I'm Dee Kennedy. Hello, everybody. And I'm very excited to be back on Sweta's masterclass series and sharing what I know and what I've experienced with the Wheel of the Year, and the rhythms of nature. And the last time I was on, we talked about sacred geometry, which is the language of nature, and this is sort of the rhythm. So we went from language to rhythm. If for those of you who saw the last segment, and if you didn't, you'll still get to perfectly walk away with a lot of information today, and very excited to share it with you. So
you said the sacred geometry was because you said Wheel of the Year is rhythms of the nature, and sacred geometry, what do you call that?
It's the
language.
Sorry, what was it?
I think, you said Wheel of the Year is the rhythms of the nature.
Rhythm.
Yeah. And sacred geometry was what? I'm just typing it out.
The language of nature, or the language of silence.
Perfect. I love that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's put down. Okay, yeah, continue.
So yeah, where would you like to begin?
Well, I think that's a great question. I was just like, oh yeah, continue. I'm just like, I'm ready. Okay, so I think first of all, what does Wheel of the Year even mean? Because when I read it, I just was like, should it be Year of the Wheel? Because you think of Chinese zodiac, and you're like Year of the Dog, Year of the Pig. So I was like, should it be? I was like, wait, was this like a semantic? Like, was it supposed to be that way? But now that you're saying it, I'm like, so what does? I guess let's just get into that. What does Wheel of the Year even mean? Like, how does it?
Sure. So wheel is actually just sort of a symbol or an image for the quarter points and the cross quarter points of the year, which could make up 8 spokes of a wheel. If you look at the year as a cyclical or a circular motion. So you're looking at cycles, right? That's the first thing that comes up. You have something that is going through a process that is shifting, transforming, transmuting, and evolving, which is the sun cycle and the moon cycle that we simultaneously go through. And they have a rhythm.
Okay.
And the rhythm also affects our bodies, it affects our emotions, it affects our psyches in the same way that all the subtle energies of the solar system, of the zodiac system, of our galaxy, everything affects us.
I think what's really powerful about what you just said, Dee, and if I could just take it for a second over there, because I think one of the things that I've heard today and in the past week, people felt very weighed down. And we do know that.
Weighed down, yeah.
Yeah, they're feeling very weighed down. And you said something that really caught my attention. You said it affects our emotions, it affects our bodies. So can you tell a little bit more about how we understand these effects? Because someone could say, I'm just having a bad day. I probably just didn't sleep at night. Or, maybe I just need to drink more water. You know how people like break it down into, I should have done this. So how does this sort of apply to what we're going through? Like, or how does it?
Well, we're natural beings of the natural world.
Mm.
So everything that is happening in nature is affecting us. Okay, right? You understand that.
Yeah.
With the seasons, with the moon, right? We move through the year in certain rhythms. There's certain almost, if you will, themes that come up at pivot points, at change points throughout the year. So the wheel of the year is an ancient system from indigenous cultures in the Celtic tradition, and many of the agricultural ancient traditions. They saw the wheel of the year starting at winter solstice, where the sun is reborn, and then it goes through a creation cycle all the way to summer solstice, which is a pivot point. And then the sun is consumed, it says, and so to speak, dies and starts into that descent into the harvest cycle of the year, and then into the dark or the compost cycle of the year. So you have this rhythm that's going on annually. And yeah, I was just say, if you look around the world, you'll find sacred sites, you'll find temples, you'll find structures that are aligned to these pivot points, these called chi points, or where the energy changes from one into another. So you have spring into summer, summer into autumn, etc. Right? So you have the points that are chi points, which essentially is a convergence of energy when something is changing. So the topics or the themes or the relationship that we have with the seasonal changes can be broken very specifically, and then we can see it all around, like you were just saying. When there's a heaviness, we can sometimes see that all around, right? We can look to our own lives, which always we're looking at our own lives to experience these rhythms and these cycles. We're always looking to our own experiences, right, to learn from them.
Right.
You can also look around you and be like, wow, everybody seems to be going through this particular emotion or theme at this particular time. And we're going to delve into all of those today.
So I think what I love is the fact that, I was looking at the description too, and I just posted it here in case you guys are wondering a little bit about like how we're making sense of some of these different things. So I think what you said is about, something that seems really powerful, even if I might not understand all of what Wheel of the Year means. Transition or shift or change seems to be something that's a very big part of it. And it seems like nature has already set up a role model for us, that in the nature, how it's transitioning, you can find a model to transition for yourself in your own life. Would you say that may be something we can apply from it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a lot that can be learned, and that's the whole point of the exercise. You're constantly looking at the shadow self through the process of self-reflection at these pivot points. So in ancient cultures, there was always ritual, there was always celebration, there was always an honoring of this time, and then a use of its energy, so whether it was the planting season, whether it was the harvest season, or it was celebration, or it was death and the ancestors, it's really fascinating. You can actually look at it in every culture. You can find it in religions and how they adopted from the more indigenous spiritual traditions of the past. So it's very, very interesting when you start mapping to these rhythms. So you have the solar rhythm, which is the rhythm of the sun, which is what I was just talking about, the solstices and the equinoxes, and the cross quarter points. And then you also have the rhythms of the moon or the lunar going on at the same time. So you have a whole 13 moon cycle within that year as well. And that's really cool. And then beyond that, you have the zodiac cycle. So you have all these cycles that are happening simultaneously. That's sort of a
I think what's really
of what we experience here. It's amazing.
And it almost seems like if you understood these rhythms, these cycles, these phases, you would actually be able to flow with it instead of against it. Would you agree? It almost feels like if I know it's heavy, if I know this is the time for me to be in self-introspection, maybe I shouldn't go to something that is going to be expecting a lot out of me on the outside. This is the time to be okay.
Exactly. And that's a really good point, is that we end up using the awareness of these cycles for exactly that. So you know when to pull back, you know when to push forward. And when you go against that, oftentimes it does create a lot of conflict because you're not moving with the flow of nature. And when you do move with the flow of nature and you are receiving its gifts, which are a lot of self-reflection, you're constantly, in order to evolve and get to the next place, you have to change, right? Or you have to heal, or you have to you're constantly learning and moving forward, sometimes discarding old information that seemed right at the time, and then you're like, oh, you learn more information and you realize that things aren't always what they seem. So everything is changing and moving and changing and moving and dying and creating and dying and creating and dying and creating. And you see that with the cycle of the sun. The sun is born, so to speak. The sun reaches its zenith, and then it descends and it dies, and it goes into the underworld or the winter, and then it comes back again. So if we look at this wheel for intention setting for like the whole scope of the year, then you're moving with the energies of nature to support your intention and to hold you accountable. And this is a big thing. So you're working with truth and order and balance of the natural world. So the natural world responding to that will come up in your life as taking responsibility for your actions, your cause and effect that you're creating through those intentions. So a lot of learning, a lot of growing, and healing and celebrating and moving forward. And so
something that just sort of popped up for me, Dee, and I think you can add to this, is the fact that it almost feels like you shift your relationship with the universe from feeling like a victim, where you're at the mercy of this unknown or whatever it is, to understanding that actually you're a partner or you're part of it. So it's like you things become, so it's almost like it redirects you to self-love rather than
definitely.
Okay, so it can shift.
It does. And love is actually the glue. Love and truth, they're the two just harmonies that reverberate through this whole self-observation, if you will, throughout the year. And not only self-observation at the time of the pivot points or the chi points, but actually on a daily basis, having a practice, keeping yourself in check, which meditation will do. There's nowhere you're going to feel more uncomfortable and faced with yourself when you're sitting in silence in a meditation. You could drive yourself a bit mad in the moment if you're having a bad day. But, that's kind of the case in point, that you find the calm within the chaos. You find the aligned self within the wheel of the year, within this motion that we're in, the sun cycle, the lunar cycle, the cosmic cycle. You're always bringing it back to the self and where you're at. And like I was saying earlier, there's different themes that come up at different times of the year, which we're going to go into. But I realized I wanted to show you this. I'm here again with another one of my
sweet. Okay, so let's see.
Let's see. Okay, is that showing up
a little bit?
Okay, so here we have a very familiar symbol, right? The yin yang, which is a beautiful symbol for balance, equality, male, female, yin and yang, in being the magnetic feminine, the dark, the void, the yang being the bright sun, the solar, the electric. So here you have your 8-spoked wheel, which starts at the birth of the sun at winter solstice. So that tiny, tiny, tiny little tip of light of the white of the yin yang is now going to slowly move as the days get longer and longer and longer. Then you come to February 2nd, you have Imbolc, which is the first planting. And then you come along. So everything is starting to grow. So your intention or your idea starts at winter solstice. Imbolc is actually where you commit for the year. Ostara is spring equinox, so it's equal day, equal night. So you see the equality there if you go right across. You have equal day, equal night, and they're always check-in points for balance, the equinoxes. Actually, all of these are reflection points. These are all points that you check in.
Would you? So could you repeat the last one? I'm trying to make sure I was. Ostara, Beltane. Yeah.
And I'll go back. I'm going to go into these in more detail. I'm just kind of going to skim around so you
okay, cool.
get a little map, if you will.
Yeah. Perfect.
For our map. So you have Ostara, which is a fertility rite. It's Easter in our modern world, so to speak, which, funny enough, is celebrated with bunnies and rabbits, right? Nothing to do with supposedly the resurrection, if you really think about it. So you have a pagan ritual there that's been brought forward or adapted by a more modern, like the Church of the Christian faith. So here you have Beltane, which is the marriage of the god of the goddess in nature. Everything is in bloom. Everything is beautiful. It's like blossoming. Beltane moves. And oh, by the way, this is northern hemisphere. For those of you on the equator and those of you in the southern hemisphere, there's a different flow. And then this is obviously flipped with the southern hemisphere. So that's kind of, just a point to keep in mind when you're reading this, or when we're going around. So if you're watching it from another country or down under, that's the way it flows, which Then you get to summer solstice. So here now we're at the zenith, right, of the sun. So you're at the biggest part of that white. If you imagine this is the sun cycle, it's after reaching its zenith at summer solstice. So it's really in that position of all light of the year. And they say that's, in the Celtic tradition, that's when the god is so consumed by his beloved that he like dies to her. So beautiful. So then the little tiny bit of the black starts, right? So the sun is, and then the sun is starting its descent. And then here you're coming into the harvest, which is August 1st. So these are all reflection points. Lammas is actually about the shadow, very much about like, how are you going to confront the shadow when you get in here, when you get into the dark part of the year? And actually, a lot of people have seasonal, the disorder that people get with the seasons, where they get really depressed. That is like more common at this time of the year. And if you look at it, it kind of makes sense why that would happen, because that's the darkest time of the year. So, when you understand these things, then you could be like, oh, maybe this out of the blue depression is actually seasonal. Maybe I need to look more at my shadow. Maybe I need to look more at myself, or my creative self, or my healing, or my, fill in the blank. So yeah, that's August. Lammas, you're into the harvest. Mabon, again, now you're in another equinox. You're equal day, equal night again. Back to the same themes of balance. What's not working? What is working? What needs to be shed? What needs to be addressed? So you can further go into the winter lighter. This was in tribal times. This was when the tribes did truces. They always did truces going into this part of the year, because this was the shaman, the dark part. This was the part where the psyche and the underworld and the dream world is really, really accessible. This is Samhain, right? We're into Day of the Dead, we're into Halloween, we're into All Souls Day. So you see that celebrated in all these different traditions, both indigenous and more modern. And then Samhain leads then all the way back again. So this is sort of the compost of the year. If you're planting and you're watering your plants here, and then you're harvesting your plants here, then here is where you're composting. So this is like, kind of sitting in the soup, so to speak. And this is where the sparks for the new year start to create. This is where the seeds start to like become ideas in your mind, and then they finally become an intention at this time of year. And in our modern world, right, we have New Year's resolutions, right? at New Year's Eve, which is only a few days more than the solstice. So you can see how our modern world has adapted to very ancient rhythms, but really kind of a little bit unaware of them. You know, like if you say you're setting an intention at this time of year, this is a great way to keep, this is a great way to keep in check. Sorry, I knocked over the phone there.
It's okay.
This is a way to keep in check with yourself and keep
Okay.
responsibility and
So,
be aware. So, yeah.
what is it called, Dee? Is this like is there like a diagram? Like, what is this called? Is this just called the cycle, the wheel of the year? That's it? Like,
this is a picture of the wheel of the year, and the priestess that I trained with in the Celtic lineage, Susie Peltier, she actually came up with this. A lot of her studies were fusing Taoism with Celtic, pagan, Wicca, that ancient tradition. So it's really interesting. So I think I always use this diagram because it's so easy for people to see, because everyone's familiar with these. They're familiar with the winter solstice and the summer solstice. They feel a certain way. It's becoming more and more common now to talk about these. And in a way, it's kind of cool because they are non-denominational, if you will. They're just nature. They're just what happens in nature around us, and we are natural beings. So you can also look at it from that perspective, you know, planting and a harvesting and a cultivating and a watering of your goals and your dreams and your ideas and yourself and your own evolution. Yeah, as you change each year from year to year.
that's amazing. That's really cool. Like, I just kind of started to be like, oh my God. So during that time, you generally are going to feel a little heavy, and that's okay. It's almost like you don't beat yourself up. So that actually is brilliant.
Yeah.
Is that something you think, I'm not sure if like you can post that in the group, or if you think that in the picture.
I'll take a photograph of this and I'll post it for you.
Yay,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Dee.
And you said something really cool earlier, and I'll point it out. If you look here, what's the glue that's holding everything together?
Oh,
is love.
wow.
And
That's
love.
love. That's awesome. Wow.
So I think that's really cool to see that, like, you know, love and truth, they're the two forces that are constantly keeping things in check, if you will, checks and balances, because there is a natural chaos that we live in. So we experience chaos in many ways, and many ways. And the key is to remain aware within the chaos, to remain aware of yourself, of your thoughts, of your actions, of your everything. So you can move with this chaos, but staying very like the center of a storm, right? The eye of the storm is pure stillness. It's in the middle of a tornado. What is it? Stillness.
I love that.
Oh,
and it's interesting. I'm just looking at one thing that Dina said. She said that this makes sense. Maybe this will explain my sleeplessness lately. And when I do sleep, my dreams have been prophetic. And then the picture that you shared, Dina and Aarti both love it. And then I just put that. So yeah, it's really resonating. It makes a lot of sense. I love that picture. So yeah, I mean, so it's interesting that actually there will be chaos in the nature. And yet nature has already informed us that there might be chaos. So you can be, but you don't have to get in, you don't have to be chaotic. You can be the center. So that's really powerful.
I think life is going to throw you all the curveballs based on your own cause and effect of your actions and your words and your life and your karmic blueprint and your soul's, you know, journey and where you're at in your journey, because we're all at different places, but we're all moving along together. Yeah. So, you know, it's very individual, but what's cool about looking at the wheel of the year and just kind of really observing it, you can keep that self-awareness fairly checked in most of the time, you know.
I agree.
And that's the idea, is that you're more and more and more becoming aware of yourself, of your consciousness, of your power, of how to utilize it, how to heal yourself, how to manifest in abundance,
Mhm.
all of these different things, and face your shadow, and
Can
the
we?
Oh,
I
I was
just
just going to say the thing with all of this work, whether yeah, with the cycles of the year work, is it really is, it's not easy either, because you're putting a magnifying glass all the time on uh, yourself and what's showing up, and that can be uncomfortable, because obviously we're human, so we make mistakes, and we have to learn from those mistakes, and we're constantly, oh, my phone just died.
Okay, well, that's fine. I was going to ask her. Well, you guys can see it's today's tech galore. We are not going to let it bother us. This is what I was going to ask her. So while she gets back, we will continue going with it. Basically, what I was going to ask is, how do we navigate the shadow? Because something that has come up with most of you guys is, for you, most of you guys, that has come up is the fact that, we are very hard on ourselves for wanting to feel like you are human. Like, I think that's one of the things that I've noticed is very hard. But when you realize that this cycle of nature itself has created the space to have your shadow. Now, when people say shadow, I think some people might not be aware of it. Your shadow is just the parts of you that you are not nice, so to speak. They're frowned upon. So anger, anxiety, worry, the parts that don't make you feel very good about yourself, that's considered the shadow. The self-hatred, the self-anger. And pretty much in any part where you're starting to do work on yourself, your shadow will start to rear its head. And they call it rearing its ugly head. The reason is because when it now does that, you have the opportunity to see where you're your own block, right? So one thing I'm going to tell you is, if you guys were to say, so Sweta, what is the point of doing learning about these cycles, retrogrades, equinoxes? There's always something going on. So what is the point of it? The point of it is that you don't lose your shit, literally. Okay, so I'll tell you guys, like, I have had a pretty difficult a couple of weeks, but my mental sanity really does feel like, even though I'm in the middle of a tornado, I feel calmer. And I'll tell you guys something else. Yesterday, I taught a class on money mind map. Okay. And it was a very powerful class. And I truly, you're fine, honey. And so, I felt great. I haven't really stressed out about money, not because I have a lot of money in my account, but I just haven't stressed out about it. And it wasn't like I was feeling delusional. Oh, I'm just going to sit and look at the sun and say money's coming. That's not what I did. I was very actively doing my work. I was putting things together. So some payments got delayed or whatever it is, right? So I felt great. So the class went on well. Everybody loved it. I get off that call and I'm thinking, I'm going to feel great. I start to feel really, really crappy. My money fears came up so strongly. And I just kind of had to sit there and I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. You just talked about money. It's good. You're fine. You guys see, my throat's also hurting. And you know what? It became very clear to me. It felt so foreign of that fear, not because I'm completely over my money fears, but because I hadn't felt any of it. And all of a sudden it came out of nowhere. I said to myself, you just taught a class on money. You have money fears sitting so deep inside. Working and supporting other people through their fears, you have taken on some of that. But that doesn't mean you've lost that calm that's sitting inside of you. So I held the little Sweta that was scared. So I'm going to invite each one of you to do that. So learning about these different cycles helps you. So let's say, obviously she's the expert, but the picture she showed us, there are going to be time periods it's going to feel really, really hard, right? So instead of in that time giving up, because you know that that's what's going on, you slow yourself down. You start to have a gentler, more kind relationship with yourself. Okay? Like, I'm going to tell you guys today, this MR stuff, whether we believe it or not, when you start to see a pattern emerge, you realize, like, there is a pattern here. The sun always rises in the morning. It always sets in the evening. Now, the sun has never risen or set, right? So just like that, think of yourself as the sun. Actually, this is very powerful. Think of yourself as the sun because the sun allows you to see itself as completely dark, even though it's the sun. Right? Now, that to me is very powerful, because the sun is 100 million times bigger than the earth. That's become like my favorite quote for it, because every time I like to think I'm significant in the creation of this universe, or my life is that important or that impactful, I'm not even a speck when you look at me from the sun. So if the sun itself goes into this eclipse where you can't see it, imagine how much of your true divine nature is being hidden. So during the time, as she said, the winter solstice and all that, it takes time to go inwards. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that Sweta's radiance or her magnificence or anything has been dimmed because now she's in this darkness. She's still Sweta, just like the sun is the sun. So, I mean, I wanted to tell you guys, like, what do you think about it? Right? I'm just going to send her a message, you guys, just to see, like, if she's able to get on. So give me one. So yeah, and I think to me that's how I take this information, because sometimes I feel like I'm not going to be able to remember everything. I think people get into that place, right? What you have to remember is what is applicable to you now. So I'm going to say something. May 3rd, Mercury retrograde shadow ends. It is ending, right? So for example, if you are in the middle of figuring some things out, okay, we have Desh back. So I'll just finish this. So if you guys are in the middle of doing projects around the times that you're going into your darkness, just remember that's probably not the most futile time to do it. Hey, love. So that's why take these cycles and use it to have a more gentler relationship with yourself. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're not bigger than nature, right? So this is really powerful. This is going to help us plan our entire year, because now we have this wheel of life. We're like, okay. And so, there's a sense of humility and surrender. And you say, if I'm not as big as the sun, and the sun can also look like it's been hidden, then I definitely haven't lost my true nature of being the divine child, right? And we have, see, I told you, we're not giving up. D is back.
Hello.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Well, of course, the phone died, even though it was plugged in. It was plugged into the computer, so it wasn't getting enough juice.
Well, I think it was perfect because we actually had someone else join us.
A little location here, little like
perfect. I love it.
To get to the socket on the wall. Hi, I'm sure you've been having a great discussion though about this topic, right? It's really fun.
And I think the thing that I told them, I said, it's not about remembering every single detail. I mean, I told them, I was like, you're the expert. You, of course, have a lot of information and you've known this stuff. But I think what they can apply is, there are times it's going to be when the sun is in eclipse, the sun hasn't lost its sun nature. It's still the sun. So if we are going through phases when we have to go internal, it doesn't mean that you're a loser or you're just this or that. It doesn't truly define who you are, So learning about these seasons can really empower us instead of feeling like we have to be scared of it. Oh, retrograde.
Yeah, I think that's it right there. So is that this is a tool for empowerment through the natural process that's already there. So you're tapping into the energy, the flow that is natural around us. You're observing that. And it doesn't, like you were saying, it doesn't just kind of, you don't learn it all at once or whatnot. It is information, so you're experiencing it. Therefore, what comes up for you at different times, you're like recording it throughout the year. You're observing yourself. There's specific, if you really got into it, there's specific rituals at each of the pivot points that can be done, and they can be done yourself. They don't have to be so-called traditional. They can be really you sitting with your higher self and observing. This is a really powerful way to sort of use the natural geometry that we go through this wheel. And then also, like I was saying earlier, you have the lunar cycle that's going on simultaneously, so that's really interesting too. You have two forces You have masculine, feminine, you have sun and moon that are, they're working together.
So my question for you, Dee, is two things. One was, I think, when we got disconnected. It's interesting, was us asking about the shadow. So it's interesting that that's when the phone got, died. So the two things was, one, how do we navigate the shadow because it is part of the natural cycle? Two was, and you can just address them one after the other. What are these? How do the rituals help us with the transition? Because I think that's something that would be really fascinating to know. How does that help us? Like, what does it do? So the shadow and the rituals. So.
Sure. So with everything, there's dark and light. So this is a really great example of how you can observe it throughout the year. You have your light cycle, you have your dark cycle, but conversely, each pivot point, each equinox, solstice, and cross quarter, they also have a shadow and a light aspect going on. They also have, whatever the expression is, it's also going to have a counterpart that we're forced to look at, and that's the thing. It's like, this is kind of happening anyway. So if nature is affecting us, if the sun cycle, the lunar cycle, the cosmic cycle, the zodiac cycle, the planetary cycle, all of these elements, because by virtue of us being of the natural world, we're all interconnected. We're always working with each other in that unseen realm. You can delve into the shadow that's going to naturally arise. We deal with our shadow every day. We deal with our shadow moment to moment, how we're talking to ourselves, how we're talking to others, how we interact in our life, how we work, all of how we express ourselves, all of how we create. If we're to look, where's my little chart again? So if you look at the broad spectrum of the year, right here we have the creation cycle, boom, and then we have the destruction cycle. So you have the light and you have the shadow. So you can see that through on like kind of the bird's eye view of the whole year. So this is going to be your time to plant your seeds. This is to water your seeds. This is to bring your dreams and your intentions to fruition. This is starting to harvest them. This is starting to learn the lessons of what you have seen of the whole growth cycle and death cycle, and learn the lessons and let the lessons be the compost for the new year. So you're always evolving, like, you're always in a spiraling up, and you're in a sense not being consumed by the shadow, but you're learning from the shadow. But to learn from the shadow, you have to befriend the shadow. You have to have ways of expressing your dark side. You have to really understand what that is, because it's different person to person, which kind of segues a little bit into ritual. I mean, the point of ritual is you're creating fields. A lot is happening in a ritual. You're creating an energetic field. You're setting intention. You're creating sacred geometry with your body, with a group, if you're in a group. You're aligning with a pivot point of the year, or a chi point of the year, which means you're able to access the energies, and also the sort of divine flow of what's happening at that. Sorry, stuff keeps popping up on my screen here, blocking it off. It's the where was I? Yeah, the divine flow, that you're able to use that to your advantage, knowing that life is life, and we get all the curveballs, and AKA that can also be our shadow, right? That's not the curveballs, and the lessons are part of our shadow, and then our resistance to learning the lesson. So we either repeat the lesson and then it happens again, and you might find the exact same thing happening the exact same time next year. you're just like, what? Fuck, how can that happen again, the exact thing? And then you're like, oh my God, that is this like theme of Beltane. That is, you know, what's happening internally with me. So as you chart, as you align to this natural flow, you start to see things within yourself that actually keep cycling back for healing. So when they're healed and they're changed and transmuted, you have more energy then for abundance. You have more energy to expand yourself, to learn more.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what's really fascinating, I want to keep taking notes and I keep like listening to the information because it's so fascinating and so powerful. And it's really tying up so many different loose ends. And I think one thing that's really powerful to hear about this is, again, going back to, it is shifting your relationship, because I think I've been there where I'm like, why is this damn lesson happen? Like, why is this happening again? You've got to be kidding me. And, you know, it sometimes feels like, now that I think about it, that sounds very victimized. It's like, oh, I can't believe I have to go through this again. But it's like, no. When you realize it's not going to stop till you change something or you transform something, now suddenly it gets to be fun. I mean, I don't want to, you know what I mean? But it does. It starts to be an adventure. You're like, oh, this is only going to keep happening again because you haven't wanted to learn. And then you suddenly say, so is it going to be done when I learn? And it's like, it's really nice to know then rituals support you through that, because
they do. They create an abundance of energy. They're like a direct call to your allies, that you're creating something very clear. You're being very clear. Your words are extremely powerful, limited, and potent when you're in ritual. So, you know, it's like your conversation with your divinity and with the divinity that we all exist in. So it's also symbolism. So ritual is symbolism. Everything is symbolism. So what's that doing? Your right side of your brain is what is switched on in ritual. You have like logical, tangible rhythms, but then your right brain, which is the creative side, which doesn't think logically or linearly, that's activated by all the symbolism and by the energetics. So you have this really powerful experience when a ritual is done with integrity, when it is of the highest truth, and not engaging in anything that is diminishing your integrity. Let's say.
No, this is really powerful, because I mean, I've talked about it too, and I think I just love how you're explaining it. So it's sort of what I like about this learning the rhythms of the nature, so to speak, as we are talking about it, is then it does come into the language of the nature, which is sacred geometry. So it's almost like we actually have a lot of support from the universe when we don't even realize it. So this is awesome, because it teaches you, okay, this is what you're being given. You're not being you're not being punished. So I think that's a very empowering way to look at it. Now my question for you is, I think there's a new moon coming up at the end of the shadow, which is the May 3rd. I'm not the best with the moon stuff, so what would you recommend as far as how to sort of integrate this wheel of the year even more into your life, like how to apply it more? What would you sort of say?
So this time of year right now, we just went through Equinox,
okay.
Which is the fertility rite. It's the time of year that we experience the second planting, so to speak. So you plant your intention at Imbolc, which is February 2nd. You get your intention idea at winter solstice when the sun is reborn. And then at Mabon or Equinox, it's where the fertility and the expression of the seed is fertilized. Okay, so it's starting to burst forth. So what is that going to bring up then? That's going to bring up the shadow of what might hold you back. So you can use the wheel of the lunar cycle to keep that check sort of. So let me just say something. The other pivot points are every 6 weeks, and then the lunar cycle is the 28 days within those. So the lunar cycle can take you deeper. Lunar is the feminine cycle. It's the emotional cycle. So you can use the powers and the properties of the lunar cycle to go deeper into what's being brought up by the sun. So at the pivot point, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So say what comes up for you at around equinox, and it's different person to person, but there are central themes that happen at each one. So you can use then the lunar, whether it's just aligning to the new moon and the full moon. The new moon is always going to be for setting intentions. The full moon is sort of the zenith or the manifestation of your intention. And then the waning cycle from full moon to new moon is, sort of that destruction cycle, almost like this, right? You have your new moon to full, boom, and then you have your waning cycle to dark moon, and then you start off again.
Wow.
So you have your waxing and your waning. And then I say, like, really important is having a practice that is a daily thing. So yes, it's amazing to align to the wheel of the year, to do your rituals, the same with the new and the full moon, whether it's lighting a candle or doing something more elaborate. But a daily practice is really important. Keeping a diary is amazing because you can really track things. If you don't keep a diary, just like definitely having that check-in point every day, where you can be grateful, where you can give gratitude, where you can look at yourself, where you can look at what's going on, where you can say thank you, or where you can say, okay, I need to look at that, or I'm going to chew on that for a while, or I'm not really sure what that means, but I know it's going to be revealed the more I go further and deeper into it.
Okay. I think that's actually, I'm glad you said that, because I think one of the things you guys have to realize is that each one of you does have a practice, of course, and you guys have like been exposed to a lot of this information and everything. I think what it is it's always helpful to know that there is more than what's going on with the eye. There's always something that some things can explain why we are going through some of the stuff. But like Dee said, when you have a regular practice, you are probably more prepared than someone who suddenly decides during Mercury retrograde to start maybe having a practice. It might be a little bit harder to stick to that, right? So we don't want to wait till we're in a crisis to start having some kind of...
You can start anytime, any day.
Exactly.
All of these rhythms, whether they're creation or destruction, whether they're, there's ideal times to start things for sure, but you can jump on the bandwagon any day. You can like really be like, okay, where are we in the wheel of the year? All right, today is April, what is it today? I don't even know what date.
Isn't it the 23rd?
And 23rd, there you go. So
24th, I lied.
So we're in the middle of, right in the middle between Equinox and Beltane. So, you can look at that on your wheel of the year. You can see what properties are happening at that point, what's happening in nature at that point. And then you can also look at your lunar cycle and tend to your goals on that simultaneously. So you have sort of a double whammy magnifying glass, but also a way for you to take action and a way for you to take responsibility. And that like moves things quicker. The more we resist change, then the more it becomes stagnant, and that creates patterns which will repeat and keep repeating. Sometimes our whole lifetime. Hopefully not. Hopefully we can see them and learn from them, and and forgive ourselves, heal ourselves, and move forward, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. Because things will keep coming back up to test. They will keep, especially pattern when you've moved through something, say you're working on the whole year, it will come and test you. It will come in different ways to test you, and that's sort of a really, I don't know, I think it's really cool in a way.
I think so. Because I think it also
hard, but it's cool because you grow.
because it also gives you the opportunity. So it can test you, but it can also be an opportunity to then make that shift. So it's, it's a matter of like, I think that's the excitement about it. Well, I was gonna say, Dee, I think I feel pretty good about the questions I've asked. I want to open it up to the others so that they can ask.
Sure.
If you wanted to listen to a meditation after they've asked their questions, I think that would be amazing. How do you feel about that?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Sure.
And MR Shadow, no more breakage, please. Thank you. Okay. So, Dina, I know that this is really resonating with you. Arti, Bridget, Jocelyn, Abhishek, any one of you guys want to ask, it will be helpful for the people that also watch the replay. So go ahead and just ask your questions. You can unmute yourself now, and go ahead and ask her anything that you guys want a good clarification on and stuff.
Well, for me, it's making sense because, you were saying that during this time of the year, the things that we need to work on are coming up, right? So that's what's been coming up in my dreams. And so, yeah, I definitely, and I have a lot of things that I actually prayed the other day. I'm like, this keeps happening to me. Please, angels, help me to figure out what the lesson is in this so I don't have to keep repeating it, And so, because I keep getting these, well, I'll tell you, I keep getting these people that surface in my life that are extreme narcissists, and they're mean to me, and I don't like that, and I don't know how to deal with that because my normal way of dealing with that makes it worse with the narcissist. So yeah, so I'm still working through that. So.
Yeah, I think, that's very complex person to person. But if you always bring it back to yourself, like, okay, what is this person reflecting in me, or maybe what are they showing me about my own shadow that I don't want to look at in myself, and bring it back to you, and rather about you rather than them. Right. But that they're showing you something, then you can address what it is and heal from there, and change your, that lesson, because it's a lesson if it's repeating, right? So it's wanting your attention, and it's wanting to show you something that's within you, and and there are jewels, when we get to learn from our interactions with other people, sometimes those relationships heal and move and grow and move forward. Sometimes they dissipate and learn from each other, and that's we decide, that's not an energy I want anymore. I'm making a very clear boundary that I'm, if I see that red flag coming again, I'm not actually going to engage with it. I'm going to go this way, or So I think it can be. If there's things that your dream is revealing, that's giving you ideas, using that to go deeper into yourself, into your healing process, and into
Okay. Well, thank you.
That vibration, sure. I have probably time for one more question.
Okay. So if you guys want to ask, you want to jump in now, please don't be shy at this moment, because you guys will get to ask your question. That'll be great. Okay. So she did ask, is this the best time to do the vision board and set intentions? Is during the new moon?
Yeah, the new moon, absolutely. The new moon is definitely a time where you can set intentions, and that's when it is most potent to do it, because you have the flux coming, right? You have the light that's coming with you, and then it'll bring it all the way to the full moon. For a yearly, you would set your intention in December and into February, all the way into February, using the time from the winter solstice to Imbolc, which is February 2nd, for solidifying what your idea is, what your dreams are, what your goals are, what your commitments, and also what you're looking at for yourself healing for the year. What is bringing forth the shadow all the time to transmute. I think vision boarding is amazing. You can do that also at any time, and certainly the new moon is a good time to set an intention, to to make a big change, you're going to have that flux of light supporting you. This cycle of the year we're in right now, we're in the creation cycle all the way up to June 21st, which is summer solstice, right here. So this is a good time to kind of check in where you're at in your year. And you could, if you wanted to, if you didn't do a vision board earlier in the year, you could, at the next new moon, Sweta, you were saying what would be a nice thing to do. You could use this upcoming new moon to do your vision board for the rest of the year. I'm going to put this little chart up on Sweta's thing so you can screenshot it or print it or whatever and keep it handy so you can check in. And I invite you, I know like this is the overview classes there, you're just getting to touch on things, but I invite you to explore these. I really think it's something that would be very, very helpful in tending to that vision board and seeing it manifest and throughout the year, but also looking at the roadblocks all the time. Yeah. I hope that was a question. That was kind of a long-winded.
No, I think that's perfect. I think it's perfect because I am going to be doing the vision board stuff. So this is a confirmation. So I think that was a really good question, Arti. Dee, I don't know if there's time for meditation. If there isn't, we can then give them your information and then we can wrap it up. So it's really up to you because I think we have done meditations yesterday. So whatever is in the best interest of your time, you just let us know.
Yeah, I can stay a few more minutes. So we could just do a closing meditation to let's see. Okay, let's just all take 3 deep breaths. So we have all this information swirling around. So taking the breath in through the nose, into the body, just being aware of the breath, using the breath as your return to the present moment, to the awareness. And envisioning the sun on that yin yang in your mind's eye, in the center of your brain, third eye, traveling all the way into the center. Just picturing the yin yang symbol. And then seeing the wheel like 8 spokes superimposed on top of the yin yang. And envisioning the sun making its trek around the perimeter of that yin yang and that 8-spoked wheel. And then balancing that, you have the lunar traveling around us, traveling around the earth. As we travel around the sun, the moon travels around us. So envisioning the moon doing its 13 cycles around us as we travel around the sun. And the sun is that wheel. So just letting your imagination, letting your awareness picture this dance, this cosmic dance of the solar and lunar energies dancing around this wheel, this spiraling in motion. And just keeping the breath traveling into the center of the brain, into the third eye, just keeping that picture, whatever that looks like for you. You're allowing that image to just sit with you, maybe a new way to look at the cycle of the year and the moon cycle. And you can return to this at any time. Always you can return with the breath. So just feeling what that feels like within you. Maybe you feel a swirling or a whirling energy when you bring your awareness to those two dancing polar opposite influencers that are major influencers in our existence here on earth, in these bodies, and honoring that, just finding that place within yourself to say thank you so much to yourself, thank you so much to your breath, thank you so much to your body for all the gifts it gives you, all the experiences it gives you day to day, moment to moment. I'm just saying thank you to the cycle of the sun and the moon for all that it brings up, for all that it shines and all that it hides and then re-shines, renewing, rebirthing each cycle, replenishing. Just like the breath, renewing moment to moment. So bringing your awareness to your breath, just do a scan of your body with your breath, saying thank you to all of your body. Thank you for being present in this moment, to stop and take a moment and a breath in your day for yourself. We ask the energies to continue to inspire us to slow down and observe. Just as much as we need to stay busy and creative, we also need to pause and reflect and contemplate and have silence so we can observe this dance from a different perspective, from the divine perspective of stillness. So you'll be calm in the chaos, the eye of the storm. And bringing your hands into prayer, giving thanks to yourself, giving thanks to each other and to all sentient beings. And all beings reach enlightenment. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was really powerful. I'm still like kind of reeling from it. So, well, thank you so much, Dee. As always, it's an absolute honor to be able to host you and to give people the information and tell them what she does. So Dee does a bunch of different things, you guys. As you can see, the meditation was incredible. I mean, I didn't want to come out of that piece, but that's what we can always find around us, right? So Dee, like I said, she does a lot of different things. She's an actress, she's a healer, she's all-around powerful woman. She's an amazing mom. She's great. She also has, she designs jewelry that are based on chakras, which are really, really cool. And we don't have time to get into, but check out her website. She does these sacred tours to Egypt. Really cool. And if you guys are looking to like give gifts to your significant other or like, just to a friend or anything, these are amazing. I actually have them. I want to show it to you. I love them. They're, of course, let me show you real quick. Oh yeah, here we go. They're really cool, and she has like different kinds now, but if you guys can see this, I don't know if you can see this. So it's really pretty, right? This one I think was made with like cloth, but she's coming up with other ones. They're really cool. I really felt inspired to share it with you guys. So check out our website. This jewelry is called Eyes of Thieves. So check out our website. It's diva13.com. And you can follow her on Facebook. You can follow her on Instagram. Lots of fun stuff. Lots of information. Is there anything you would like to add, Dee?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it is such a fun journey to explore the natural cycles, and it sounds like everyone is familiar with the lunar cycle somewhat. So marrying it up with the solar cycle is really, really
amazing,
quite beneficial, and it just keeps revealing and revealing to you. The more you're aware of it, the more it will reveal. The more you practice being aware and aligning to the seasons, the more they teach you and show you. I am running a tour to Egypt. This will be there for Mabon, which is the autumn equinox, and we'll be there for 2 weeks. I've been running tours and traveling and training in Egypt for 12 years, and the Egyptians had a beautiful system of aligning with the year and with the flow of the Nile and the inundation of the Nile, with their agricultural wheel that they honored. So we delve into all kinds of aspects of the ancient world of Egypt and the mystical, esoteric teachings from the mystic schools, from the temples and the pyramids, and you get to travel the whole country in this very beautiful, very fun mystery tour. We stay in gorgeous accommodations, and we also stay on the Nile on our own private, like a yacht, a dahabea, a pharaonic style boat. We stay on that for a week on the Nile. So guided shamanic meditations at all the temples, and we work with the chakras. We work with the flow of the Egyptian temple system. So and how it relates actually to the body. So it's another way of aligning yourself to your inner, I call it your inner Egypt, your inner chakra system, through ritual and through meditation and observation, and traveling a specific path.
For sure.
So sign up to start for that, and it's in September the 14th to the 27th, and you can email me deeva13.com. That's d@diva13.com, and we can set up a time to talk on the phone and see if this is a good fit for you. Thanks for putting that
absolutely. Yeah, so that's her email, and just check her out on the website. Start following her. These tours are amazing. I'm definitely going to be going on one probably next year. That's how my timing's working out. But anybody who wants to actually start to learn more, and what you'll realize is chakras were not just based in India. Okay, they're a system that can be applied everywhere. They're actually in every culture, from what I have studied in some books. So really, it's an amazing exposure. And as you can see, she's been doing this for a long time, which, it's always nice to have a guide that knows things. They've been through that before you. So you guys, I'm so excited she's here. I am going to jump on Periscope in about, absolutely. I'm going to be jumping on Periscope in 30 minutes for reading. So if you guys want to join me there, but let's give Dee a huge thank you. And actually, I do want to say this, that this is a gift from her. It's from Ireland. I always say this. So this tarot is very powerful. So Dee is very connected to us. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Check out her website, you guys. We will see you we'll see you at another time. All right, guys. Bye.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.